Good afternoon or good morning, depending on when you're listening to it, everybody. We are here with the latest installment of MSP Business School. My name's Brian Doyle, and with me today I have
Tim McNeil
and Robb Rogers.
And let me tell you, you were talking about three people that are coming off of one of the more whirlwind couple weeks.
Yeah.
We are coming to you immediately following. Today was Robb's final pitch. I went 2 days ago, but we had the opportunity, as we've shared on the show previously, to be part of the ConnectWise Pitch It program. And while lovely, it was a lot of more work than I thought it was going to be. I don't know how you guys feel.
It was a lot of work. Like Timmy, I don't know about you with doing all the podcasts with them, but on my side, it was brutal. Fun, but brutal.
Yeah, I definitely didn't put in as much time as Robb, but still, getting ready for I think it was the initial one where they asked the initial one. It was one of the podcasts. I can't think of it off the top. Marvin B. It was that one. There were a number of questions they kind of want you to get ready for, and I wrote them all out and all that stuff. But I mean, pales in comparison to what Robb did.
Yeah, and I think that kind of brings us to what today's topic's going to be about. It's going to be about, as an MSP, do you have your pitch? Are you ready when called upon, not just to tell a story of what you're doing, but tell a story that's going to resonate with the end user? And, I'm going to open with my 2 cents on this. One of the things that I really learned during this process is, as well as I can speak about my products or speak about services and pitch things, when forced with a time limit and with a fence put around it, it is a whole different ball game.
Yeah. Which is weird for you, Brian, because you're not normally a talker.
Not
so like this
not
is
at all.
Ever.
You put a time box around it. It's funny. And you've got certain activities you do regularly, right? I do demos regularly. I know I got an hour to do it, and I've got it in such a way that I know there's no way I'm going to go over, but we're not going to be considerably under. And I've mastered my 1 hour pitch, if you will. Well, most of the world doesn't have time for me to do a 1 hour pitch. So this was a great program for doing it. And as I was saying, that kind of brought us to today, where the three of us were talking and saying, hey, how can we help MSPs who might be trying to come up with that elevator story to really get organized and get it out there? So I'm going to throw it to you first, Robb. What are you thinking there? Since you were the other crafting these 5-minute pitches we were under.
I mean, so Brian, we kind of had a little bit of an advantage there because part of our product is building 30-second pitches for our clients, right? 30-second and 2-minute and 5 minutes is part of our job. But man, when you actually have a timer sitting there and you force yourself to get under 2 minutes and you get binged, or actually there was a gong today. There was literally a gong today. And so like it kind of puts that stuff in your head, and then you got to be like, okay, what is really important to them versus what do I want to say? And that took a long time, a lot longer than I thought, right? It was tough. It was tougher than I thought it was going to be.
I personally liked it with the first go around in front of all the ConnectWise GMs, where Sean Lardo was just like, nope, done. Right in mid-sentence.
It was about 60 people. 60% of the people got gonged on that first go around.
They did. Oh yeah.
That was tough, man. That is tough. And you practice it so much, right? And then you get there, and then all of a sudden, like one little thing changes, and your pitch. That's why it's so important to practice so much, right?
And I think that's, one of the things that came to me was, early in my career, I had an opportunity to be in kind of a pitch competition for the first company I worked for, right? The running joke there was, it was just, it was the way they were getting all of us as junior sales reps. I was kind of in a boiler room type environment to get familiar with the product. And, and we had the same thing. We had to give the full pitch in under 3 minutes. And, I worked on it and I worked on it, and my boss was kind of a drill sergeant on it. Anytime he'd see me, he's like, "Give me your pitch." And that would include at moments where you shouldn't be asking me, like the men's room. But anyway, the point is he would hit me with the pitch, and it was really cool because it really made me build that pitch. And hey, I won a little money there, so it was great. But that was probably the last time I did a formalized pitch where there was a time parameter around it. I mean, I've done a couple investor pitches in my life, but they were a little bit more loose in that they weren't really like competitive based. And this was tough. Well, the first thing I found tough was editing not editing myself per se, but editing the content that I thought was important.
Yeah, that was tough. That was the hardest part for me. Tim had to help me out on that. Like just for weeks and weeks. No, Rob. No, Rob. Rob. And it was hard. It was really hard perfecting that. And like between Timmy and I, we probably put in, Brian, about 170 hours into these 2 decks that we built for, the ConnectWise investor pitch and then the MSP pitch. It was a lot. And it was rewarding. I'm glad it's done, but it was rewarding.
Well, and I think like anything, I mean, it's Rob already touched on it, but we do help a lot of MSPs with their unique selling proposition and their 30, 60, 5-minute pitch. Look, when you put it into practice and you're doing it, you're the tables are turned a little bit. It's a little weird. It's a little different.
Yeah. So that's where I was at an advantage. So you talk about, talking about 30 in 5-minute and, 10-minute pitches as part of your story. I have decks, like we create that, decks for so many things. So I was able to really pull into some decks that we were utilizing, throughout, and be able to modify those, really bringing in what the criteria was. But where I found myself doing more was the practice part. Like I never foresaw that I was going to be spending hours of kind of retooling, measuring, then going, okay, how do we cut this? Or, hey, that flow doesn't work. And just when I thought I had it done, they gave us the scorecards for judging last week.
Yeah.
And I realized I had to do it all over again.
And I was like, are you kidding me here? Are you kidding me? Hey, whatever. But
all right, so go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so lesson number 1, for the purposes, bringing it back to the MSP is, hey, you've got to get your content together and you got to frame it in the sense of what matters to your customer. Lesson number 2 is, if you're in a pitch competition versus just pitching your customers and trying to use this as a sales tool, get the criteria early. And and ask that question. I bet you if we asked what the judging criteria was earlier, even if it wasn't prepared, it could have gotten prepared earlier. For
I just didn't think of it.
None of us did. None of us did. Even the folks that were in it last year as well didn't do it. But that's part 2. But really, let's kind of maybe pivot a little bit. We talked a little bit about our experience of building this out, and I think both of us found it was a great journey. If you are a vendor listening to this and you're thinking about the Pitch It program, I highly recommend it. Between 100%. Things that you learn and just getting to craft your pitch, even if you're not going after investment dollars, which most of us aren't at this stage of the game, it's really going to help you think a little bit differently about your business. And that kind of is the segue here to the MSP community. You've got to be ready to show up at your local chamber with a 30-second pitch when you're doing networking. You've got to be able to get a short pitch when you're doing your cold calling and things like that, which I'm sure Tim and Rob will go more into in a moment. And you've got to have your pitch when you're standing with somebody that you got a little bit more time, the golf course pitch or whatever you want to call it, where you got a few more minutes to tell what you want, but you got to get to a point and you got to get beyond it, because that's where the setting lies. And if you haven't really worked on that, it's something that even if you don't think you're going to need it, I would spend some time on, because you get asked that question more than you expect.
Yeah, you really do.
Tim.
You really do. I mean, and going back to what you were saying, as far as just perfecting it within chambers and things of that nature, there's 2 places where, especially if whether you're an owner or a salesperson new to the industry, a lot of people look negatively, specifically on BNI when it comes to the MSP world. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say that BNI it's not going to save your company. So let's be upfront with that. where I think BNI is a really great thing is, one, you can create centers of influence. You've got to understand that you're probably not going to get a lot of business out of it. But the best thing that BNI did for me was help me perfect my 60-second pitch.
100%.
And I'm
And
telling
like
you,
the, yeah,
it's a low point of entry. It creates centers of influence, and it really, I don't want to say it's the only thing that helped me early on. That's completely not fair, but it was a big part of me understanding what I need to talk about.
yeah. It 100%, like I did BNI and I did, the chamber league groups and all that. And what I liked about those things is it forced me to practice because I
Yeah.
had an end goal.
Yes.
Right? Like next Tuesday, I got BNI. I better be ready for this thing. So like you go past the understanding what you do and get more into your tones, your cadence, your sequences, and all the things that makes you unique when you're doing your presentation style. So it's not just saying the words, right? I mean, like there's a difference between an A-list actor saying the words in a movie and a D-list actor, right? You believe that A-list actor. And I am a big believer in tone, cadences, passion, everything being inside there to make it work. And that's all practice. Like you saying it over and over and over in front of the mirror, in front of your spouse, everything.
Yeah.
And that's a critical step, because that was the thing that I think I found myself most wrestling with during this piece. How do I edit down so my cadence isn't going that rapid, right?
Yeah.
And that's something you got to be thinking about, because
Yeah.
I talk fast by nature.
Yeah.
Then imagine if you're jamming in a few extra words, right? Well, that's all of us being from the Northeast, right?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. And being up in front of everybody, you naturally talk faster because you're a little bit nervous. And so you go faster. And so like somebody has to be like, hey, Rob, you like Tim does this to me all the time when we're practicing. Rob, slow down, bro.
Yeah.
Downshift, because I'll just go. I get all excited and boom, I'm gone. Right.
There
I'm
were a
just the
couple that
Greyhound. Boom.
they rivaled the Micro Machine Man.
Yeah. I love it. And I get so passionate and I go. But yeah, so you got to go slower than what you actually think you're doing, and then speed up and slow down during your your cadence parts where you're like, this needs to be really focused on. So
and
like
in
that.
addition to like BNI, some other areas where you can work on a pitch as an MSP that really have no major cost involved is if your geo has a local Toastmasters club as well.
Yeah.
Toastmaster clubs are really built to help people with public speaking and get them out in front of very comfortable audiences so they can then get in front of uncomfortable audiences, right? So, I would highly suggest you look into that. But, let's talk maybe about what an MSP should be thinking about when they're crafting a pitch.
Good.
So let's kind of shift gears there a little bit. MSPs, who, again, with the majority of them being run by technical founders, love to talk about the tech, but I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on this before I share mine. What do you think the pitch should include?
Tim, you want me to go?
Yeah, you can start.
Okay, so we actually have this scripted out. So I have it up on my. I thought you might ask me this. So we have a template. It's a very basic template that you can like practice on and then change, right? So we do this. When we first started out in IT, we found this common issue. People needed a solution. For 18 years, we have been building these IT solutions. We found these features with this secret sauce and this benefit really helped people. So like using that as your template, you can expand upon it and like really start to craft an elevator pitch that tells people why you're in business, what you wanted to do for people, how long you've been doing it, and what are the features, secret sauce, and benefits that actually provide those answers for people. And then you practice over and over and over and get it less than 30 seconds. And that's how we start the process with people, is with that formula.
That's awesome. Yeah. And Tim, how about
That'll
you?
Be $300, Brian.
Yeah. Hey, Can I just buy dinner at our next event?
Sure. We go to just buy me a beer. I'm cheap.
Tim, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I guess what I would say is it's along the same lines as what Rob was just talking about, but just really as the MSP, there's two things you need to understand before you can build anything. what are your core values? What are your unique selling propositions? And we've talked about it plenty of times. Like your USP can't be great customer service. We talk in plain English, and our billing is great. Whatever.
Our people,
That's
our
whatever.
techs,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be something that makes you different, right? So once you figure out what your core values are, assuming you already have them, what your USP is, or tweak your USP, that's the foundation of when you can sit back and say, okay, what do I do, and how does it really benefit my clients? And then you develop a 30 or 60 or 30 and 60 second pitch around that. And to me, that, I've worked with a number of MSP owners doing that. Once we get the USP squared away, everything else just falls into place.
Yep. And the key is really, how you open that pitch too. You got to get to the hook, and you got to get to the hook quick, right?
Yeah.
So, like if I was an MSP, depending on what my area of expertise would be, I might have an opener like this. Hey, what we really do is empower MSPs to become more operationally efficient and really kind of be able to become more productive as an organization. Or, hey, we help our MSP partners build a strong security posture that reduces the risk and potentially can save money and downtime. You've got to get to some sort of hook that starts. And if you noticed in both those cases, I'm really trying to talk about you, the customer. This is what we help empower. This is what we do. This is how we do it, and this is why you care. And I was a Sandler taught sales guy, right? So when we were taught the sales pitch, it was really, you better have three things that would resonate with people that you might that they might be able to go, yeah, that's me, and then have a fourth one, right? So if I was in MSP, it was, hey, we help our customers back up their data and make sure that we've got it protected. So should disaster strike, we can recover quickly. We help people, manage their security and make sure that we've got a strong perimeter. So we keep, intruders at bay. Hey, we make sure your end users don't open up those emails that can potentially wreak havoc within your network, and then you'd have your fourth one. And the key was you're trying to elicit that response from that user by framing it that way. So they go, at least one of those, oh, that happened to us, or yeah, I know what you're talking about, or something like that. So it triggers them. Too many people's pitch is the battle hymn of the Republic, right? We are XYZ company, and we provide you technicians every day, and we give them to you strongly, and they'll show up
Brian,
at the time. Yeah, dude, they don't let me sing, but you get the point. They used to joke with us, the battle hymn of the Republic. You don't want to do it. And at that point in time in my career, I was like, oh, shit, I do this all the time.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's I think once you as the MSP owner or salesperson, once you get your 30 and 60 second pitch down, I mean, then it's time to start going into industry specific. Look at clusters. Where do you find that you've got clusters of clients? Lawyers, whatever it might be. Then you start making separate pitches just for them. And that's where it's really important to get not only understand what your hero stories are, but also what makes you great in that industry.
Brian, I got a question for you.
Sure.
So you did your pitch a couple days ago, right? What was the scariest thing about doing this entire thing that you were doing? Was it the investor pitch, or was it the MSP pitch? Because we had to do both of them. What was the one that was like, look, I don't want to mess this up?
I'm going to say that from this perspective, the investor pitch, not so much because of the money component of it, but because these were people that were really trying to evaluate, does this product, part of me said, they're evaluating, does this product, or does, what me as the person, does this company resonate with me, and do I feel like it fits into the ecosystem that we're trying to create? Whether it's ConnectWise, I'm talking the big picture ecosystem. So I looked at it more as, hey, this is people really legit, that are going to come back to me with feedback that tells me whether or not they think my baby's ugly.
That's, you know what, Brian, I'm glad you said that, because that was the one that stressed me out the most. And look, man, I'm not looking for their money. right? And like, and I don't think most of the people are, but the judgment of telling me, that they don't think that we're worth it. That was, I was stressed about that. I still don't know the answer, right? We won't know the answer for a couple of weeks, but
it was also the nonverbal side of it, right? Like if, there were a couple vendors and I feel for them because I've been there, that their presentation got done and the floor opened for questions, and a couple courtesy questions came in, but there was time left on the clock for Q&A when it ended.
Silence,
and that's tough. I felt good that, hey, my Q&A got cut off.
Yeah.
Nice.
That
means there was more questions to be had.
It felt good. I agree. Like that was a good feeling, but and that was like, I didn't think as I was going into it that it was going to be that stressful, because I was like, we're not looking for money. Like we don't care. But then as I started getting closer, I was like, well, these guys are judging me.
But as much as I think about that, the judging me thing, I've always said this, you're going to like things and you're going to hate things. And, when it comes to things that I've been involved with, take a number and stay on the line. There's plenty of people in front of you that don't like it too, that kind of thing. So I never get so wrapped up on, the impression, although it's important in this process. Honestly, I keep coming back to my biggest struggle was the time limit, getting to a point to talk about a pretty complex product in a short period of time in a way that you're also getting the message of where the benefit is back to the user.
And there's pizzazz.
Yeah, there's pizzazz. There's things they're looking for. Do you understand your market? And that's what you got to be thinking about with your customers. Do you understand their market? We all know that supporting a healthcare firm is not the same as supporting a manufacturing firm. So can you pivot your pitch in the moment to hit those little resonators? I go back to that Sandler approach I had. The reason you have 4 of them is because you got to know which ones work with what marketplace, and be able to be nimble enough to shed the ones and not even go into them that don't matter to that person, and be able to adapt quickly to that person, because you might not have a lot of time to think about it. It might be as simple as Tim telling me that he works over at XYZ Manufacturing and me going, oh, well, this is how he helped me. And now I'm in my pitch, right?
Yeah. It was good. It's definitely good. Well, fellas, we're coming up to the end here. We didn't get gonged on this one, so that's a good feeling.
Well, that's because we're in charge of the gong, bro.
Yeah, in charge of the gong. I mean, we could go another 20 minutes.
If you want me to shut you off, I can get you off the screen real quick, and it's just going to be me and Tim.
Yeah. All right. Just to let everybody know, this podcast will be up on LinkedIn, and we will have this up on mspbusinessschool.com as well. So please go to YouTube if you can, and like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. We're trying to build that market there. And fellas, we're done. We're done. Yeah. It was a long one. That was since May we've been in that program.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, but really the program and the critical pieces have been over the last few weeks. And
true.
The pace picked up, I would say,
considerably from August 1st
5 weeks ago, I would say. At the very end of July, beginning August.
Well, hey, I want to throw this out there too. We may put this as a disclaimer at the beginning of this too. We'd love to hear your pitches. If you're willing to stand in front of a camera and send us a pitch, maybe in future we'll do some pitch dissection on this show.
Wow.
So, we may put a little bumper at the beginning of this going, hey, you're going to hear about it a little bit later, but we want to challenge you to submit your pitch and let the deans of demonstration here, tear it apart a little bit or break you up. And I think we should have a little pitch it competition here, boys.
Yeah, that's a great idea, man. I would love to do that with people.
I would actually be open to that.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. And I will say, everybody, go to LinkedIn, check out the channel programs link for Brian and I, because Brian and I are competing against each other. And I would love to hear what everybody thought about how much better I did than Brian did. So like, if you didn't think I do better, then don't comment, but you know what I mean.
If you need to make Robb feel good and tell him he was better, it's okay, because I'm secure in where I am right now.
All right, Tim, Brian, this was a good one. All right, everybody, take care, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, guys.
Have a good one.
All right.
Bye now.